Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Tiffany, this is Tiffin Stitches, and this is Knitting Podcast number 13. Welcome, happy to have you back. Disclaimer, I am not feeling 100%. I'm sure you can hear that in my voice. Let me back you up a bit. Sure you can hear that in my voice, but I sound worse than I feel. I've been struggling with some sickness. If you've been watching Vlogmas, then you know this, but I got a massage last night, and something about laying in the, on the table, just everything feels like it came to the surface that was lying dormant. And now I sound raspy. But hopefully that's okay and not too terrible for you guys, because I have some exciting things to talk about today. As you can see, something that I'm wearing. I also have a dog who has gotten bigger, and you can now see his head. And I'm talking, and he thinks I'm supposed to give him attention. So, Cooper, why don't you go play with your toys, baby? You want to say hi? Want to say hi to the podcast? Oh, no, not the sweater. Okay, not the sweater with the claws, buddy. There we go. Say hi. Say hi, peeps. He's like, what's happening? He's gotten so big. And he's just getting bigger. All right, go play with your toys. Go play with your toys, okay? All right, so today on the agenda, we have a finished object, which we're going to talk in depth about. I'm super excited to talk to you guys about this finished object. And then I have 2 whips and some future plans, because now that I'm finishing through some of these things, I want to talk about where I'm going to put my focus after I finish up these deadline knits. So I have one more deadline knit, but it will be done by the end of the year. And today, as I'm filming this, it is Saturday morning, the 21st of December. So I have about 10 more days on that sweater, but I should have some time to work on some other things, and I want to talk about where I'm going to focus my energy. So that's kind of what's on the agenda. I don't have any acquisitions besides my Advent, so I'll talk about what I opened in my Advent. So what I'll talk about when I'm talking about one of my whips is the colors that I've gotten so far. So yeah, that's the game plan for today's episode. So let's go ahead and jump on in to the finished object. I have a lot to say on this. I have notes, so because I want to talk to you guys about how much yarn I used, how much money I spent, how much the pattern is. It's out now. It did go out into the world last Monday, which is so exciting. I'm so excited. I have friends making this, and I'm just super stoked to see the finished versions of all of them. The tester photos, I'll share some of those here in a minute to show you some different color options, and I just want to give you guys a really good rundown of this sweater. So without further ado, this is my Iris pullover, fully finished, except I do have ends to weave in, so you happen to catch a visual of that. Don't judge me. There's a lot of them, and they're all tied, and I just haven't sat down with a darning needle and done it. So let me get my notes here, and we will kind of chat. So first of all, what have I done since you saw this as a whip last time? So I'm trying to think when it was a whip. I feel like I had just finished once. I had shown you guys the sleeve for sure. So I feel like I had one sleeve done, but it was a little longer than it is today. And then I had the other sleeve to do. And so I did the second sleeve a little bit shorter than the first one, because the first one was very long and it was not blocked. And I was like, okay, when I block this, it's going to be aggressive. And so I knit this one shorter by about 11 rows, left the cuff off of it, did not do the cuff, and blocked both sleeves. So one of them being finished with the cuff, one of them being without the cuff. And when I blocked the sleeves that first time, it was actually kind of hard to figure out what I needed to do, because the shoulders had blocked out separate widths. So the sleeves actually looked the same length, even though there was 11 rows difference. And that was confusing. So I lined everything up. And if you watch Vlogmas, then you've seen me do this. I lined everything up. And when I line up the sleeves, they were what I thought they would be. They were shorter. On one side was shorter. But when I folded the sweater in half, there was about an inch difference between the shoulder, drop shoulder on one side versus the other. So it had blocked out more on one side than the other side. And so I went ahead and followed my gut, went with the shorter length, knit the ribbing on that one, took the second sleeve back, knit the ribbing on that one, and then I reblocked the entire sweater. And when I blocked it, I made sure I pinned it out and measured to where the drop shoulders were even from the neck down and all of that stuff. So I was very particular about how I blocked it. And the sleeves are the same length, so success. And I really like the length of them. When I stand up, you can see they sit right at my thumb. And I like them. And when I bend my arm, I mean, they're still at the base of my hand. So I think it's a really good length for the sleeves. I really like it. And I'm happy. I'm happy that I went back and took the length off of one of them. It really didn't take very long to knit that cuff again. And I just cut it off and repicked up the stitches back where I wanted to, and then knit the cuff again. So that's really all I've done since I have shown you guys this last. I finished it the 2 days before the pattern went live, so I finished it a week ago today, and I blocked it, and then was able to do some social media stuff for the go live on Monday. So it was close, but I'm proud of myself. I started this on October 19th, and then I finished it. What day would that be? The 14th of December. So, you know, a month, almost 2 months, working on a all over colorwork sweater. And I feel like that's an accomplishment for someone who's never done all over colorwork before. I'm pretty proud of it. So, all right, so let's talk a bit about the yarn usage that I had for the size that I knit and my gauge and just like the details of this. Like, I want to get technical because I want you guys to know why mine fits the way that it does. I've actually had some comments on my Instagram and my YouTube asking me, you know, it seems like mine fits a little bit different than the pattern, other versions of the pattern, and what did I do different? And so I want to talk to you guys about that so you kind of know what I did and where I landed, I guess. So I used the called for needles, which are a US 4 for the body and a US 2.5 for the ribbing. I did not change my needle size, I want to be clear, but my gauge was not the same as what the pattern calls for. So I did end up with a smaller sweater than the size 1 actually is. So let me tell you some technical details about the pattern. So the pattern comes in 6 sizes. That's just a result of the color work and the repeating pattern. That's all that she could make work. But it does have a pretty good range of the bust because each size is a pretty big jump between them. So 6 sizes, but it ranges from a 44.5 inch bust to a 78 inch bust. And I'm smaller than the smallest, like mine turned out smaller than the smallest, and I'll talk to you guys about that. So depending on your gauge, you could also still kind of tweak this sweater to be a bit smaller if you needed it to. Because 44.5 inches, like I have a 34.5 inch bust, that would give me 10 inches of positive ease in the smallest size. And that's pretty good. Like if I would have gotten gauge with a size 1, I would have been happy. But I wasn't mad at the ease that I'm not mad at the ease that I have. So you can kind of tailor it to like what you want. But so it's designed for 8 inches of positive ease at the chest and 5 inches of positive ease at the upper arms. And the called for gauge is 28.5 stitches by 32 rows. And I almost exactly reversed that for my gauge. So I had 32 stitches by 28 rows. So what does that mean? That means that I had more stitches per inch, resulting in a smaller sweater. And then I had less rows per inch, resulting in a longer sweater if I would have knit to her recommended stopping points. So that's why I had to shorten the sleeves, because when I knit the first sleeve, I knit it to her recommended stopping point, and it was too long because my row gauge was off, right? So I had to take it back 11 rows, and then I got the right length for me. And then my finished dimensions are smaller circumference-wise than her recommended gauge. So my finished bust is 39 inches, and the pattern says you should have 44.5 inches. So I am 5.5 inches smaller than the recommended gauge. Now that being said, I have a 34-inch bust, so, and a smaller waist than that. So I have some positive ease at the bust, not a ton, but I have a ton of positive ease at the waist. So I'm not upset at all. It's not like it's a form-fitting sweater. So I'm not mad. I've never measured my upper arms, but my finished circumference at my upper arms is 11.4 inches. Now, the length of the body, she gives you more of a measurement than she gives you a stopping point, because you're repeating a chart over and over again, and she says just stop when you get to this length. So that I'm pretty spot on with what the pattern calls for. My length overall from the back of the collar to the bottom is 21.5 inches. It's not, like, so I'm wearing high-waisted jeans right now, and if I were to take this out, so I definitely wouldn't call it cropped. My belly button is here. It tucks really well into the front of my high-waisted jeans, and I don't know if that looks funky, but yeah, so 21.5 inches. I could have always gone a little bit longer, and I debated it, but I think I'm happy. I'm happy with the overall fit of the sweater. So those are my finished details. So even though I used the called for needles, I knew my gauge was off just a bit, and I just went for it knowing I had 10 inches to work with, you know, like the size 1 already gave me such a buffer, but I ended up being pretty far off. Like 5 inches difference is pretty crazy, but because I had all that room to work with, I was okay, you know? So when you go to pick your size and you go to look at your needles, just know you can play around with it, you know? Like, even though she gives you this gauge, like, you could probably find a place in between sizes just by changing your needle size a bit, or if your gauge is off with the called for needles, like doing that calculation. So I knew I would be okay, and that's why I just proceeded with the called for needles, and I'm happy I did. I really like the fit of it. So if you want a fit like this, then maybe try to get gauge around 32 stitches, and that's what this one fits like. So in terms of yarn use, this is kind of interesting. I did all this math and I found it very funny how little yarn I used. So I knit this in Holst Garn Super Soft, which is the called for yarn for the pattern. I love Holst Garn. I've bought Holst Garn in the past. I've knit with Holst Garn in the past. I have multiple projects on the needles before I ever signed up for this test knit with Holst Garn, and there's a couple reasons why. It is the working with it is satisfying. I enjoy it, but also it's very affordable. And that's what, it's funny to talk to you about this today, because I did the math on how much this sweater cost, and it's insane compared to what we would use in, you know, a indie dyed, or like even with like Knitting for Olive and Sandnes Garn and things like that. Like it's pretty crazy. So I used a total of 7 colors, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 colors. And my usage for the size 1 at a smaller gauge, I want to be very clear, I did not obviously knit to the same size that she called for. So that's key to note here. I used my main color, which is Nougat. I used 58 grams total. And that's because it's Holst Garn, and I'll talk to you guys about that in a minute. One of my first contrast color is coffee, which is the dark brown in all of the diamonds. And I used 51 grams. I only used 1 gram of my second skein, which I knew. I tried so hard to get it to work where I didn't have to break into that skein, but it didn't work out like that. So 51 grams of coffee. My next contrast color is the gray, which is right here. And that's called Truffle, and I used 33 grams, so not even an entire skein of that. The next contrast color is the lighter purple in the flowers, so the tops of the flowers. That's in the color Damask, and I used 26 grams of that. And then the color Lark, which is the green of the leaves, I used 20 grams. And then Elderberry, which is the bottoms of the flowers, I used 14 grams. And then Sweet Pea, which you can't really see, but it's in the tops. Oh, the lighting's weird. The tops of the triangles here, I used 10 grams. So the total usage of yarn, the only thing I don't have is a calculation for how much of the bleached white I used for the sweater, because I had that yarn in my stash and I failed to weigh it before I put it in the sweater, so I really don't know how much I used of the yarn prior to blocking. But I did weigh the total sweater, and the total sweater weighs 281 grams after blocking and all of that. So but it's just crazy how little of these colors got me an entire sweater. To have a main color only be 58 grams for a sweater this size, like, it's because of the makeup of this yarn. It is a light fingering weight that blooms into a fingering weight, and you get so many yards. So many yards. I'm actually gonna go get a skein or a label, because actually I have one here. Never mind. So 50 grams, this is a 50 gram skein, is 314 yards in 50 grams. That's insane. That's insane. And it's very thin when you pull it out of the skein, and it blooms to a beautiful fingering weight. Like, I mean, you guys can see this is not airy. It's not see-through. I only used 1 strand. So it really does bloom in washing to a fingering weight yarn, but just the way they mill it, you get so much bang for your buck, right? Like 10 grams of a color that I use throughout an entire sweater, that's insanity. So based on that, those are my numbers. I would have needed 2 50 gram skeins of the main color, 1 50 gram skein of Sweet Pea, 1 of Truffle, 1 of Elderberry, 1 of Lark, 1 of Damask, and then 2 barely of the coffee color. So if I look at what that would cost with shipping from Denmark, this entire sweater was $61.06, and the shipping made up $24 of that. So the yarn was $36.72, which seems absolutely crazy to say, to have such a gorgeous, gorgeous sweater. Like, doesn't that seem insane? 61 bucks. Like, I spend way more on that, like, on most of my sweaters. Like, this Isayer yarn that I have for the terracotta sweater is $200 worth of yarn for the whole sweater. So, and that's a color work drop shoulder sweater, right? So it's just nuts how affordable it is. And so don't be scared off by the shipping. Now, if you buy cones, the shipping can be a little bit more expensive. So the order that I bought a bunch of cones in, my shipping was $65. But you're also getting probably 2 or 3 sweaters quantities worth of yarn. It's 500 grams. So 500 grams, if you're talking 314 yards per 50 grams. You're talking about 500 divided by 50, obviously, is 10. times 314. You're talking about 3,140 yards of yarn in said cone. So it's a lot of, it's a lot. Because, like, you know, a normal skein, 100 gram skein, that maybe you use like 5 or 6 of in a sweater is, like, this is 2 sweaters worth of yarn. Easy. So, anyway, all of that to say, Holst Garn is one of my favorites because of its affordability. It's natural wool. The colors are wonderful. Their dyeing process, I really like the dimension to the colors. It's not just one color. It has a lot of dimension to it. And yeah, I highly recommend it. I have a hair in my mouth. Got it. Okay. All right. So I think that's everything that I wanted to say about this sweater. The pattern is €8. I'll have it linked below if you guys are interested in knitting this pattern. I do highly recommend it. She did a great job in writing it. The charts are beautiful, easy to follow. I didn't have, like, there were a couple of tweaks in the charts that we found along the way. She tells you where to catch your floats. Like, the detail in the pattern is absolutely amazing, and she did such a great job. So I could not recommend this enough. Obviously, there's some skills in here, like steeking. You have to steek the armholes. You have to steek the neck. There's obviously Fair Isle color work throughout, but I got this done in 2 months, and it was a joy. Like, at the end, I was having some life stresses, and so it got a little bit hard to just stay motivated, but it wasn't the pattern's fault at all. Like, I really, truly did enjoy every bit of it. So I highly recommend the pattern, and I'll have it linked below if you guys want to knit it. So I think I've talked enough on this. How many minutes in are we? 23 minutes. Yeah, I've talked enough on this. So let's move on to my next whip, which is my Advent blanket. Let's go ahead and just talk about that real quick. And so I don't remember exactly where I left off last time, but I can tell you that I am 2 days behind. So Advent season started right here. This is where I'm at. I would bet I was somewhere around here when I filmed last, so I've done all of that. But I have 2 colors I have not put in to the blanket, and then I have not opened today's Advent, so I'm behind by 3 days I need to get caught up on. So the color that's not in there, just because I have it in front of me, from December 19th is Frosty Fudge. And then the color from December 20th is Mistletoe Meringues, which is a really fun corally color. So I need to add those in. This blanket is just a scrappy blanket. I'm not following a pattern. It's literally just, I chained 302 back in the day. And then I did 1 row of single crochets, and then the rest of them are all just double crochets into the stitch below. So that's all I'm doing. It's just stripes of double crochets across, and it's getting pretty big. I mean, it's not quite a blanket, but it's like a lap blanket. Like, it's covering my feet right now, and it's like in my lap. So I want it to be bigger. I probably have a couple more years of working on this, but I'm loving it. And I love the bright, you know, her Advent this year is reminding me a lot of Sweet Tarts. Like, it's very bright and colorful. So I like how it kind of shifts from the darker colors to like the brighter colors with this Advent. So I'm enjoying that. Okay. And then my last whip, I am going to go ahead and switch the screen to black and white. This is my Stripes sweater by Andrea Mowry. I am knitting this as a sample knit for Lauren from Treehouse Knits using her yarn. And I have a deadline. I'm trying to get this done by December 31st so that I can block it and get it shipped to her back in Austin. She needs it by January 6th. So she's only a few cities away. I don't have to worry about it going like internationally or anything. So I'm thinking if I get it done by December 31st, block it, and then obviously it's the new year, get it in the mail to her January 2nd, which I will film a clip because my next podcast, let's see, it's the 21st today, which means my next podcast would be on the 4th. So what I'll do is I'll film, before I put it in the mail to her, I'll film the finished object for you guys, and I can show you the colors at that point, and then we'll go from there. So where am I on this sweater? Let's get the right side here. All right, so we have split for sleeves and working on the body. She wants there's different versions in this pattern by Andrea Mowry. I have the hiccups, I'm sorry guys. I'm trying to get it to go away. Okay, there's different versions of this sweater. You can do a full length body or a cropped body, and full length sleeves or cropped sleeves. So what Lauren decided is she wants the full length body with the cropped sleeves. And so what that means is that I have 10 more stripes to do on the body and then the ribbing. And then I'm gonna do 10 stripes on the arms and then the ribbing. So that is what I have left of this. I've divided it up, golly, these hiccups. I've divided it up by day, and so I know how many stripes I need to do per day to get this done by the goal, which is 2 stripes on the body, and then I will have 3 days for each sleeve to finish each sleeve, which I think I can do no problem, to get this blocked and ready. I am knitting this in the size 4, and I'm using Lauren's sport base for 3 of the stripes, and then her cashmere lace base for this stripe throughout. And her cashmere lace is such a joy to work with. It's beautiful. I'm really enjoying the process and the look of this sweater. I love the colors. I wish I could show you guys, but I can't until after Christmas because these are her advent colors. But I wish that I was keeping this. It's beautiful, and I love the color palette of it. So you'll get to see that in the next podcast. Super exciting to show everybody the colors of this. Or you can watch day 25 of Vlogmas, because I'm going to do a big reveal on that, because I'll post that on the 26th, which is after Advent, and I'm allowed to post the colors then. So I will be doing a big reveal on day 25 of Vlogmas, which, by the way, my Vlogmas playlist is linked below. If you haven't watched it and want to get caught up, I have been vlogging every day. Some days are more interesting than others, but we've been doing it. So, okay, I'm putting that sweater away, tucking it away so that I can turn you back to color. Okay. Now, just really quickly, I'm going to talk plans for the coming weeks. So I'm going to finish the striped sweater is the main priority, but I do have it divided out by how much I need to do per day. So if I finish my allotted amount that day, I can work on other things. And if not, then starting on the 1st of January, I will have freedom to work on what I want to work on. So what am I hoping to accomplish in the next little bit? So first things first, I would like to get my porcelain sweater ripped out and back on the needles and ready to go for me to work on it. Now that I'm done with this colorwork sweater, I really want to get back to this one and get some progress on it. So that is my first plan. If you haven't seen my prior podcast, this is the porcelain sweater by Lay Knit. I am knitting this in the called for yarn, just in different colors, sort of. The body is a combination of Sandnes Garn, 10 Pure Ghent, and 10 Silk Mohair. I am knitting it in 10 Pure Ghent in the color Oatmeal and Almond in the Mohair, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Almond in the Mohair and Oatmeal in the 10 Pure Ghent, which they're pretty close. This one's a little more yellow than this one. And then for the contrast color, we've got a combo of the same color. It's Blackberry, or color number 4672. So those are my colors for that sweater. I'm knitting it in the size medium. I did go up a needle size, so I'm knitting this on a size US 7. And yeah, I'm excited to get back to this and hopefully get this one finished in the winter season. That is a major goal. I would like to have that sweater done in the next couple of weeks. And I think I could do it. It's at a big enough gauge, and I feel like I've really gotten into like a good rhythm with color work that I feel like I could totally do that. And then the other sweater I hope to pull out in the coming weeks is my Ingrid sweater, because I want to get it finished. I haven't touched it, and I really, really want to. So this is my Ingrid by Petite Knit. Don't mind the needles in the neckline, because I was picking up the neckline and then stopped abruptly. So I am knitting this in Holst Garn Super Soft in the color Sugar Snap held double, and then I'm holding it, that held double, holding that with Knitting for Olive mohair in the color Dusty Rose. And this is, you guys have seen this, you've seen it in this state many times. So I would like to finish the neckline and get the body done. I think that that's really achievable, and then all I'll have left is the sleeves. So getting this one done in the winter is completely doable, and then I will have finished a total of 4 sweaters in the last few months, which is the best I've ever done. I've never been this productive with sweater knitting, so I'm pretty proud, and I will be excited to show you guys. So if I can make it happen, which I think is doable, because I'm gonna do some challenges. I'm gonna do some Instagram reels where I try to finish these sweaters in a week. And so next podcast, I'll have the finished object of the striped sweater. And then this one will be next, and I will hopefully in the following podcast have this sweater finished. And then my porcelain sweater will be next, and that will be my finished object in the next podcast, because I do film podcasts every 2 weeks. And so I'm pretty excited about the idea of having all of these sweaters to wear this winter, except for the stripes, because that's not mine. But I would have 3 sweaters to wear during the colder months, and have them all done before February-ish. So that's exciting. And that's kind of my goal. So we'll see how I do. If you aren't already following me on Instagram, that is shown below. Follow me there. I'm going to start doing these series in my reels that are, finish the sweater with me in 7 days. And that's kind of what I'm excited about coming up. So follow along, and yeah, I think that's all I have today. I appreciate it, you guys watching. If you did enjoy the video, I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll stick around and join this little group of ours. And I will continue posting podcasts every 2 weeks, and then a supplemental video every week in between. Right now I'm doing Vlogmas. I am going to be filming a lot of things coming up. The first will be a what are my goals for 2025? And then I'm also going to be filming a what I knit in 2024 video. And I also have a vlog, a making vlog for this, if you want to see kind of the ins and outs of the learning process for me and just the entire timeline of knitting this. I have a vlog coming out, a making vlog. That'll be probably my next supplemental video, which will come out next Saturday. And then I will probably do my goals video, and then my what I knit in 2024 video. So that's kind of the order of events coming up with the supplemental videos. So I hope you'll stick around, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.